Welcome to the Down South Hunting Podcast. This is Mike Higman. I've got Adam Cruz, and tonight it's just going to be Adam and I talking about whatever we want. We do not have a guest lined up, although we've had about 4 of them where we tried to get things together and technical difficulties or that kind of stuff got in the way. But something Adam and I have been talking about is just kind of doing an episode to just share backgrounds and catch up on things and that kind of stuff. So I think it's going to be kind of fun. If you are one of those people that don't enjoy the podcast where the hosts talk too much, and I know we've got some of those that listen to us, and I appreciate that. I appreciate the fact that they like it about our podcast. This one might not be your favorite episode, but I think it's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting, and hopefully it's something you guys like.
Yeah, it's our podcast. We can talk about whatever we want to, right?
And our listeners can delete it if they don't want to listen.
And that's exactly right.
So anyway, I guess the first thing I wanted to talk about, Adam, was we've got a new partner, which we're really excited to talk about.
Yeah, man. We brought on the partner that we wanted to bring on from the very beginning in Nomad Outdoors. I had a chance to use their camo last year. They actually sent me some to test out, some cold weather camo. And just looking at the prices, I mean, anyone can go look at it. It's their Primaloft series. Back in the deer season, they had it on sale for like $100 for the bibs, $100 for the jacket, and I think it's normally like $150, something like that per each. But for $200, I mean, this stuff blew me away. Literally, just lightweight. I do a lot of hanging hunts. And it wasn't bulky, so it was like not catching on the tree stand, the steps, and trying to move around. I was just really excited about getting them on the line and possibly bringing them on as a partner. So we're pumped about that.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff I really like about Nomad. I'm excited that they've agreed to work with us. And one of the things I'm most excited about is getting some giveaways going. So we're working with those guys now to get some products lined up that we can do some giveaways. So some of that's going to be on our Hunting in the South Facebook group. And we'll probably find some ways, through our page on Facebook or maybe Twitter, Instagram, that kind of stuff to give away some products that way too. So I'm excited about getting some stuff out to the listeners as well.
For sure. And if you think of something as a possible good giveaway, whether that would be maybe the Primaloft suit, maybe their turkey collection, maybe it's their Harvester series, give us feedback because we haven't asked for the giveaways yet. We haven't started working in that side of the things yet. So the time now. Send us what you think might be cool giveaways.
Speaking of cool, one thing I think is really cool is that Mossy Oak Bottomland stuff that they got. I'm a big fan of that coming back. I think their stuff looks really good. Even their T-shirts and stuff, they've got some really cool stuff. So that's one thing I like about them. Another thing is they're based right down in South Carolina. So one of the things that we're targeting with the companies that we're going to be working with, if possible, are Southern-based companies. And not that we're exclusive to anybody made in the USA is great, or I guess I would say U.S.-based company because good luck finding made in the USA stuff. But if we can find somebody from the South, that's even better bonus.
Man, I agree. That was one of the top things on our list. I mean, obviously it has to be companies that we want to partner with have to be quality companies. They have to all the different check marks. But being a Southern hunting company, that's a huge check mark in my book. Man, I can't talk tonight, guys. Sorry about that.
It's going to be a great episode.
It's going to be awesome. It's going to be me stumbling and bumbling. I drank like 6 pints of water, so watch out.
We're going to have to stop and take a bathroom break, man.
Yeah, I'll pull some Aaron Snyders and be like, hang on, man. I got to go take a whiz.
So one thing we talked about with this podcast, this episode, is we're not going to be doing any editing. So you guys are getting what you're getting out of this one. So give us your feedback. Let us know how it goes. If this is something that goes over well, it's definitely something we can do more of. It's a little bit more work doing the interviews, and we certainly like talking to, or I guess I'll speak for me. I like talking to hunting experts rather than just you, Adam.
Yes, I will concur.
The feeling's mutual.
Totally mutual, 100%.
But this is what we got for today. So I do want to ask you about I know you went hunting this last weekend and you took that kayak out. I want to hear about that trip.
Yeah, man. So, as I've told the listeners, I lost my turkey hunting lease this year, and I'm hunting some public land pretty close to my house, most of which is really only accessible by water. So, during the, right leading up to the season, doing some preseason scouting, I didn't really find any good turkey sign, quite honestly, but topographically, looking at a map, looking at the different habitats, I found some places where I thought turkeys might be. And also went and found some places to put in my kayak that I didn't think others would. And a matter of fact, I didn't see any other kayak hunters, but I did see some guys on boats, and I beat them to the spots. So that was pretty cool because I was able to launch before they could get there. I mean, I got there super early, and it was about wore me out. But I got in there, went right where I thought turkeys would be, and what I was looking for was some steep terrain up against some water. And as old Rick Taylor said something about turkeys like to roost over where they can poop in the water. Literally, that's where I got on a gobbler. Got in there, turned this big bend, and man, this gobbler just starts hammering down. And I really couldn't tell where he was at from where I was at on the water, so I'm trying to paddle and get in there slow and quiet. Ends up, I got way too close to this bird, and I didn't mean to. I took a bend in the river, and it was just like, bam, he's there. I could literally see him on the tree limb, so obviously I was way too close, and there's no leaves on the trees. I was busted. He didn't spook, but, I mean, obviously he can't tell if I'm a hunter, fisherman, whatever. Turkeys aren't that smart. They just know I'm dangerous. So he immediately stopped gobbling, and I didn't stop. Like, I just kept on paddling and paddling down the river, and I just wanted to kind of get away from him and just leave him alone. And I ran into two more birds. So what I ended up doing was I just kind of pulled off, got up in the bank, got as close as I could between public and private. I was kind of like right on a line there. And those birds ended up all pitching down towards private land, on the private land, as a matter of fact. And none of them ever gobbled again. I did set up and call just a little bit to those other birds that were on private, trying to call them across, but man, they weren't hot. It's just I think birds are still flocked up and hadn't separated yet. So it was a short adventure. I had to get to baseball and kids, but that's part of life. And hey, I enjoy all aspects of it.
So that kind of reminds me on the Hunting in the South group, we've we've been asking people about what's going on with the season, and it seemed like everybody from Tennessee, a lot of people from Alabama too. A lot of people were mentioning that the turkey are just gobbling on the roost and then going silent once they get down. Sounds like that's kind of what you were dealing with too. So what's your strategy? Like, how do you move forward with that? Do you just wait till later in the season, or what's your plan?
Usually they'll at least break up some. Here's one strategy that I found in the past that works, and this is kind of out of the box. If you can find a group of gobblers roosting with a flock of hens, a lot of times there will be one gobbler that gets his tail kicked all the time, and he wants to hang out in this flock, but they won't let him because they kick his tail. So what they'll do is he'll go roost somewhere else. But when they wake up in the mornings and they fly down together, they start gobbling and yelping and all this other nonsense. This bird will want to connect with that flock. If you can identify where that lone gobbler is at, then you can get in between the two and catch him going towards the flock. So I'm actually kind of thinking might be what happened with this particular bird that I'm hunting. I believe that there were multiple gobblers and hens roosted on the private property. This bird was by himself on the public property, and then typically I think he would have went to those birds. That's what I've seen hunting a lot of field birds where I have a lot of area that I can view, is that these gobblers want to get with that flock, but they get their tail kicked, so they don't sleep with them.
So with turkey hunters, is there a situation where, like, guys that have been hunting for a really long time and killed a lot of birds and that kind of stuff, where they don't want to settle for that side bird? They only want, the boss hog that's got all the hens? Or is it kind of like anybody wants to kill whatever bird they can get their hands on?
I think most turkey hunters will kill a 2-year-old bird. So, above the Jake. Got more than 6-7 inch beard is kind of what I'm thinking when I classify a 2-year-old, and that's probably not very accurate.
I wonder if that's kind of different in states like like Florida, you get two birds. I know some states you only get like one or two birds. I wonder if, those guys are a lot more choosy
I bet they are, man.
versus
Yeah,
because you get what? You get
four birds,
three or four
four
birds.
bearded turkeys. So that could even be bearded hens.
So really, it might be more of an accomplishment, not like how big a bird you can get, just like filling all your tags
Yeah, in
in,
Tennessee.
in
Well, most
Tennessee.
people in Tennessee are, particular, and they say, "Oh, I won't shoot a Jake," and most do. So don't let them lie to you. I'll shoot a Jake this year if I need to. But I mean,
I've seen
that's
a
my
lot of
goal.
pictures on social media that show a lot of the bird, but not the
Yeah,
beard.
that's always a Jake. They're like, killed me a turkey, and they got it hanging up in some weird position where you can see their tail fan. That's it, and you can't even see all of that. That's a Jake. Hey, another tactic for hunting flocked up turkeys is just get in front of them, get where they're
I thought you were
going.
about to give me another tactic for hiding the fact that you shot a Jake.
No, I can give you all kinds of tactics for that.
I would probably just lay it out there like I got a turkey.
Hey, remember I did teach you the trick with the ears for the small deer. Remember that sticking the ears out, sticking your arms. I mean, obviously, I didn't trademark that, but I did remind you.
Yes. Yeah,
It's
I use that this season.
You're welcome.
Yeah. It's I mean really it doesn't matter how big the deer is in reality. It just matters how big it looks in the pictures.
If it made
Right.
your heart thump, that's all that matters, my brother.
Yeah.
That's
Was
what
it
those.
brown?
It
Yeah.
was, it was down, baby.
Yeah.
And sometimes those jakes will do that to you. And sometimes they just could roll in and they're not making any noise. It's like, I'm not going to shoot you. But man, I've had jakes. I had a jake one time. I called him. He went from the roost, flew across a creek into a field, and like I ended up calling him like he flew back across the creek, hopped a fence, and came strutting and gobbling all the way into me. And man, I have regretted not shooting that turkey all my life because that was one of the coolest turkey hunts I've been on. He did everything he wasn't supposed to do and came right down to my gun barrel. And I just thought, oh man, this is so cool. I'm not shooting Jake. And then I didn't kill any more birds that year. So I was like, come on.
Isn't it crazy how you work like how we work as hunters? Like we could like watch like four sets of does pass and like just, think it's cool and watching whatever. But then you decide, okay, the next doe I'm gonna shoot. Or next doe that comes in, I'm gonna shoot, and suddenly like gets your heart going and all that kind of stuff. It's like that
Yeah.
predator instinct somehow just like kicks in, and it's suddenly like a big deal, even though it happened several times earlier in the day. Uh, I guess that's one of the coolest things about hunting.
It is, man. That adrenaline rush.
So I got some kind of bad news this last month. I found out that I'm going to be losing the property that I had hunted on this last season. So I got those two really nice bucks this year, and that's all I'm getting off of that place. It's that some family land that I had gotten permission to hunt on,
Yep.
and nothing bad happened with the family or anything like that. No bad feelings, but they just decided that they were going to be using it themselves some more. So they, didn't want as many people on the land, and as many people, that means me. So, so that's unfortunate. I kind of set up like a whole hunting camp out there, so I got to like go clean that camp up and stuff. Um, I did make sure that it would be cool. And they let me know plenty time early. They said, we wanted to make sure we let you know so you can line up something for next season. So they were cool about, not putting it on me last minute, and I don't have anywhere to hunt this next season. But I think it's gonna be a lot of public land again for me, which in one sense is pretty cool because I would actually missed the challenge some of the hunting land. And don't get me wrong, because if I still had permission to be there, I would definitely be hunting there again this year. It was a lot of fun being able to hunt the rut and, having a higher deer density and that kind of stuff. But I did kind of miss, I think I may even mentioned it, kind of missed the challenge of the hunting land or public land and the scouting and that kind of stuff. So I'm excited about getting to that and into that some.
So are you not going to knock on any doors?
I might. I got Onyx. I got the Onyx app this year, which is really cool. And I've kind of thought, because I'm in sales,
We should
and
mention that
basically,
they gave that to us. That was really cool of them.
yes, yep, we had kind of been talking to them, and we might have them on the podcast just to talk about the app and some of what it can do because it's such a powerful app. I had been using a different app called Backcountry Navigator,
Mm-hmm.
which I will say it's kind of hard to switch over because I got all these spots saved in that. I think what I probably can do is I bet there's some way I can save that as a KML file and transfer that over so I don't have to um,
You might
manually do all that.
you might be
So
able to, send it to them. That's a thought. I mean, they can do a lot.
I mean, it really might not even take that. It might be just like download it on my computer and then upload it into Onyx. It might be. I'll need to check it out. Um, but what is really cool about Onyx, which I haven't had before, is basically for work I drive around. I drive around to a lot of different shops. I sell fiberglass and composite type materials. So I sell to like boat manufacturers and industrial shops and that kind of stuff. And basically I drive over, several 100-mile territory. 4 days a week, I'm basically driving through the state of Florida. And a lot of times I'll drive by big properties and think, man, I wonder if that might be something I could hunt and that kind of stuff. There's like very limited areas in Florida that aren't developed. So when I drive through them, of course, I'm very interested in it. And what I can do with Onyx is I can actually see who the owner is and who the property lines are. Because a lot of times I'll drive by and there'll be like a mobile home out front or there'll be a small house. And I always wonder, like, was that, part of the big property next door? Or is it? So the cool thing is you can see who the owner is and see actually what the boundaries are and stuff. So that might be something I need to do, is try to get some permission properties, especially with the kids, because that's, I've got 4 kids and I've got 3 of them involved going with me this year. Actually, I went with all 4, but my youngest daughter's 4, and it wasn't really much of a hunt. It was more like go sit in a stand for 15 minutes and then go back. And it's important to me that she remembers we went hunting together, but it wasn't an actual hunting trip where we were going to shoot something. Um, anyway, it'd be pretty cool if I could get permission on some places just to bring the kids. I know you've kind of had a challenge, Adam, getting your kids involved. You've got one that seems to be really into it, and one not so much.
Yeah.
What do you think that's like? Just a difference of like, what's the way they are, like who they are as a person, or do you think it's like what you did getting them involved was different? What do you think the difference is?
I think it's my fault, honestly. So my first one, I put him in some situations where it was like too cold, too wet, making him be quiet, like kind of being a little too hard on him. Pretty much like the oldest kid syndrome. You're being harder on the older one than you are the younger. So I got to watch and learn from my mistakes, I believe. And as my younger son has been totally obsessed, and I've just been very encouraging, over the top, positive and encouraging with him. And he's just like fallen in love with it. Plus I let him shoot guns a lot. And that really, I think, energizes them to want to do it more. But to make a long story short, my youngest son developing this like love for hunting has also turned into like my older son is now kind of getting jealous. Like, hey, I want to go hunting again. I'm like, oh, really? You want to go now? And like he's kind of excited about the aspect of going, and he's talking to me about going the next time. So we'll see. We'll see if he wants to try it out again. But I hope so. Man, I really want him to.
I wouldn't consider myself an expert on this by any means, but I kind of feel like hunters I think there's like something about being born with that in your mind, because like for me, I didn't start hunting until, didn't start seriously hunting until I was, oh man, I can't remember. It was probably in my mid 20s. And I haven't been able to go that much. Of course now, I go as much as possible, but there were a couple of years there where I'd maybe go once a year, but I don't know, there was something about it that like captivated my thoughts. And every time I'd go, I'd be trying to figure out ways I could go more often and that kind of stuff. And, you think about, even like 20, 30 years ago, I don't think people were like when they'd take their kids, they were like babying along. I think a lot of times they just like stick them by a tree, and
Yes.
and they either, I guess, love it or they don't. So I think like with my kids, I'm definitely doing some of the same of what you are, because I want them to appreciate that time we're spending together. And I think it's going to be something they remember us doing, whether it's something they do when they're teenagers and get in their 20s and that kind of stuff or not. I think they'll always be able to look back and say, oh, yeah, it was fun when we used to do this, even if it's not something that they fall in love with themselves.
No, I totally get that too. Yeah. Sometimes I think I'm putting way too much pressure, even on my youngest. Maybe I have the wrong, honestly, maybe I have the wrong outlook on it. I'm trying to make him, teach him the lessons, I guess, instead of just having that fun memory. And that goes for both of them. So I'm kind of learning as I go as being a dad.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty much being a dad, right?
Yeah, it pretty much is. Well, like you said about sticking a kid by a tree, I mean, my granddad stuck my dad by a tree, literally, and my dad thinks he forgot about him. He didn't come pick him up till way past lunch. And my dad almost froze to death out there. But that's just the way it was back in the day, you know? It's a lot different now.
So is your dad like really into hunting now, or is it just kind of like something he does once a year?
Man, he got huge into coon hunting. So I think there's a couple of different styles of hunters out there. There's social, more of a social type of hunter, and a lot of times they're duck hunters, coon hunters, and then there are the deer hunter and the turkey hunter types that sometimes just like to be out there in the woods by themselves. And my dad's definitely more of a social hunter. So he was huge into coon hunting when I was a kid, and I used to just like stand by the door and cry because I wanted to go coon hunting with my dad. But he deer hunted a lot. He deer hunted all when I was growing up. And man, he was like the best dad that would take his son deer hunting, because like any buck that I would personally take the gun from my kid and shoot, he let me shoot. And so I really appreciate that about him too.
Man, I remember being real young too. I like could not wait until I turned 12. We've talked about this before. I was born in Wisconsin. I guess maybe I'm not a born Southern. The thing is, I live in Florida anyway. I mean, as far as like being from the South, I don't even consider Florida like a Southern state, other than when it comes to hunting. I feel like the areas I hunt are about as Southern as they get. Um, but as far as, obviously I don't have a heavy Southern draw or anything like that, but I have been living here. I was added up. I think it's been like 30 years now. But anyway, when I lived in Wisconsin, the you had to be 12 before you get your hunting license, and I remember I just could not wait until I turned 12 so I could get my own license. And what's crazy is it's not like I'd have been able to go hunting anymore. I probably went once a year with my dad up there. But I guess that's not, when I think about like all these initiatives for bringing more hunters on and stuff, some part of me wonders like how much can we really do to instill, like, I feel like what we need to do is find the people that it's like in their nature to go and make it accessible to them.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure we can like turn all of America into hunters.
But what we can do is change their mind towards it. So like with my oldest
Oh, absolutely.
son, yeah, like I told him this past year, I was like, you're going to go hunting one time at least this year, and you're just going to appreciate it. And I'm going to make sure you have a good time. And that's what I told him. But I want him to see, the whole process of hunting, how it's done, and how to go in and butcher meat. And they helped me butcher up a deer this year. And man, let me tell you what, he may not have loved deer hunting this year, but he absolutely loved processing a deer. And I thought that was really cool to watch. And then we all went in the house, like ate the heart and stuff like that. And just that kind of stuff I think is good to get maybe the people that won't hunt. Just being able to share that with more friends and family. That should probably be our goal. Plus, if we recruit too many hunters, I won't have a place to turkey hunt. So there you go.
And maybe we focus too much on deer hunting too, as like as far as trying to get people involved, because who wouldn't love to go shoot a bunch of doves?
Oh, for
or
real. Yeah.
or squirrel or whatever, and that's like it's not an all day thing. You don't have to get up super early. That might be I guess for me though, I feel like I need to like develop some more habits and that kind of stuff around, say, squirrel hunting, to be able to take somebody with me. Or maybe not. Maybe it's just like hanging out, talking in the woods.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, me and my dad used to just take me and sit on a stump to squirrel hunt. That's what we did. And we just sit there and have father-son talks. And not, some of them weren't so pleasant, but hey, at least we were in a pleasant place.
I'd say until a couple years ago, I probably thought eating squirrels, I thought they weren't good to eat. which is, I mean, that's not the case.
You just throw some
I
gravy
just
on
kind of associate them with rats too much. Yeah, I mean, I don't even think, I mean, that's the thing is I heard, oh, you got to like put them in the slow cooker and cook them for a really long time and put all kinds of stuff with them. I mean, it's not bad tasting meat to start with. I don't think it's one of those things where you got to like hide the flavor.
it. No, definitely not.
So hopefully it'd be fun to get my kids more involved in that kind of stuff as well. The problem is when it's deer season, I I really want to go deer hunting. Uh,
And not,
so
yeah, I don't squirrel hunt during deer season. Like I tell my kids, it's like, okay, when January gets here, deer season closes, then we can go. And then it usually like rains and we get the flu and all that nonsense.
yeah. Um, so one of the other things I wanted to talk about is we've gotten a few questions from listeners, and I appreciate anybody reaching out to us because it's good to get feedback. Know that we're not just talking to ourselves here. But we've got a few people question what we thought about the scent control episodes because we really tried to stay out of it. And one thing for me especially, I really appreciated John Eberhart and I really appreciated Dan Infault being willing to come on and do it with us. And I certainly didn't want to offend either one of them by taking sides. But we get a lot of questions asking how we feel about scent control, especially given those episodes. So I was thinking it might be cool for us to kind of share our thoughts on it. So I guess I'll ask you first, Adam. What has your evolution of your thoughts regarding scent control? Like, how have you gone through that? Like when you first started hunting, is that something like you were taught when you first started hunting to watch out for, like your wind and that kind of stuff, or did you just kind of sit wherever?
Well, my dad would always tell me that hunting in the hills of Tennessee, you're never going to really know where your wind is blowing. And in some aspects, that's true. But if you go back and kind of follow Dan Infault and follow the wind tunnel theories, that's not really true, that there are ways to control your scent the way that your scent blows through the hills. But when I was a kid, man, we didn't pay attention to our scent. Like it just didn't matter, honestly. Like if we were hunting a field or something, we might pay a little bit of attention, but it wasn't part of our thought process. How about you, as far as you growing up and kind of your evolution of the hunter? Did you really pay much attention to it when you started out, or did you jump on the scent control bandwagon right off from the get-go?
When I first started, I knew nothing. I had no idea that it mattered whatsoever. Uh, hunting with my dad and my brothers on my uncle's property, we didn't even think to look at what the wind was. Like it was more important to us, like, was it a full moon last night? Will the
Yeah.
deer be moving because of they were up eating all night with the moon, but it didn't occur to us at all to check the wind. And I still, it's even hard for me to convince some people in my family that like we should even check it. Like that, I've got people in my family. I'll say, oh, well, the deer are used to the people being around. They don't even really care. And uh, I'll explain my side, but I'm not going to argue with them about it so that, they can sit wherever they want, especially, if it's, obviously, yeah, they can sit where they want. Now, me personally, at this point, I will try to account for where their wind is going to be and maybe use that as a factor.
Oh yeah, that's good.
But then my wife's dad and brother, they have like 70 acres that we would go hunting on, and all three of us would pile into that 70 acres, and none of us would even think to hunt the wind either. And those guys are more aware of that stuff now, so they certainly wouldn't feel the same way anymore. But at the time, we were all kind of new to hunting, and it didn't even occur to us. We'd be sitting 100 yards apart, and I don't even know what the wind. Probably one of us is the only one that had a chance to see anything. So since then, I started to learn about what a deer's nose could be, and that's the most important sense of theirs, and hunting the wind more. So, okay, so you started learning about the wind and controlling the wind. Where were you, like, as far as like scent control products? And Adam and I, just so listeners know, Adam and I kind of talked about this ahead of time because we don't necessarily agree on all these things. But one thing is, a lot of companies in the hunting industry are scent related. And we've actually been contacted by some companies that have either attractants or scent control or that kind of type products. And one thing that we've decided, we're going to be true to our beliefs, whatever they are. So regardless of who our sponsor is, we're not going to make claims that we don't truly believe in. And I think in some of those cases, Adam and I are probably going to believe differently. So I think what we decided to do is we'll just be straightforward with whoever is looking at being a partner, and if they're cool with the way we think about certain things and cool with us just sharing our honest opinions, then regardless of whether it's something that we think is a huge advantage or how it works or that kind of stuff, if they're willing to partner with us, then we're open to different people having different ideas. Especially with Adam and I having different opinions on stuff. There's no
Yeah, we
way
do.
it'd make it really tough to find something that meets all those criteria as far as scent stuff. So, getting back to my original question, now that I went
Mhm.
off on that tangent there, what is your opinion? I guess what was your opinion before the scent control series about controlling your scent and that kind of stuff?
I think I'll start a little bit further back. I think I had an evolution uh, as far as my scent control beliefs. I started out when I guess the scent lock and the scent blocker hit the market, and all the advertising, the marketing was done. I like truly believed 100% that was the way it should be done. Like suit up and all that good stuff, which I didn't follow the practices John Eberhart did, but I did believe in it, and I did buy a lot of that stuff. Um, I never could tell that it did any good, either one way or the other. So I ended up selling most of that stuff, and not because I didn't believe in it. It was just out of practicality. I was getting a new camo, whatever. So I sold it off, and then a lot of these lawsuits started happening against the scent control companies. And I actually started thinking negatively towards it because of that. And even without doing the proper amount of research, I thought negatively towards it. But now, I guess moving closer to before our interview, I really just had no opinion whatsoever. And I just knew that what mattered more to me about the type of like clothing I was going to wear, especially, was more around the technical aspect. Would it keep me warm? Would it wick away sweat? Is it lightweight? Is it functional? That's always been more of my style in the last few years, more so than the scent control. And I've always just had the idea of paying attention to your wind more. So that's kind of what my beliefs were leading up to the interview, and kind of how I thought about it. But what were your thoughts leading up to the interview on scent control?
I guess once I started learning about wind, um, I would. I think my scent control regimen has always been very limited. I've never been like a hardcore, uh, you know, spend a bunch of money on special stuff and all this different stuff. I think I've always just once I realized, how important a deer's nose is, was always thinking to play the wind. Um, but I did use some stuff. Like I would try some sprays. I would wash in non-scent detergent. I would use unscented deodorant, some of those type things, but never like buying any special suits or anything like that. And then I found out about Dan Infalt and the hunting beast, and the way I found out about that is I think it was episode 3 of Wired to Hunt, which when I heard it, what Dan was talking about, like locating deer bedding and stuff, that blew my mind. Um, I like I couldn't believe that people actually know where deer may bed down because I thought it was 100% random. Like they just walked around randomly all day
Yeah.
and wherever they felt like it was a good place to lay down. And I guess I believed in, sanctuaries and that kind of stuff. So there might be like a huge area that they might go back to. But the idea that deer might have like a specific spot that they bed in every time was I like he sounded so convincing. And I bought in hook, line, and sinker, I guess you'd say. So I got on the hunting beast, got real involved there, and I mean, I learned a ton. And obviously we had Dan on the podcast. They don't believe. When I say they, I mean like in general. Not everybody on the site feels the same way, but obviously it's Dan Infalt's website. And there's an overwhelming majority there that I would say believes the same way. And Dan doesn't believe in it at all. So I don't. Yeah, it's hard to say what you believed in the past exactly. But at that point I started not participating in any type of scent control. Other than I probably always use unscented deodorant because normally I'll wear some Old Spice, which is like super strong smelling.
Yeah,
So
pretty stout.
I to this day I still use some baking soda. Usually I'll wear if I remember, I'll wear baking soda. But really I don't put a whole lot of thought into it now. But what I will say is I don't completely discount everything that John Eberhart says either. I mean, it's so hard to completely discount somebody that's been really successful. And I think there's something to those lawsuits did show that some of the stuff works to some extent. I think the biggest thing for me is what it comes back to for me is I don't think you can eliminate your breath. And I feel like that is a huge part of how deer wind us is breathing.
That's why you wear
And
the face mask.
There's no way to completely eliminate it. So to me, I would rather just not worry about it. So I would say I don't do any scent control measures at all now. I use regular shampoo. I eat whatever I normally eat. A lot of Taco Bell.
Yeah, you do.
And I'd rather just go hunt and hunt the wind. So, I think especially in the South with sweating and all that kind of stuff, like there's just no way to eliminate enough to be effective. So I'd rather just not worry about it. I don't spend the money on the stuff. And it's not that I think it's all BS and that there's no benefit to any of it. To me, it's just not worth it. And I've had plenty of deer walk downwind of me and not wind me, or walk in on my scent trail and not wind me. But on the flip side, I have had them go downwind of me and wind me, maybe even hundreds of yards. So maybe if I had gone through some huge regimen that, I wouldn't have blown that opportunity. It's really hard to say. It might have been they would have smelled my breath anyway. And, it doesn't matter what scent control stuff I had. So I guess that's where I'm at with the scent control stuff. I really, I've got a hunting gear deals website where I'll list links to all that kind of stuff. And if I really thought something was complete BS, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't list links to it. I guess for me, I have to at least believe that the people that are selling it believe in it. I wouldn't want to, push something that's a hoax. But on the same note, I'm not going to just, like let's say we get into it. We were to partner up with a camo company. Like let's say we were to partner up with ScentLock. I'd have no problem wearing ScentLock and encouraging people to use their stuff, but it would not be because of the carbon stuff. Although I don't mind sharing, their claims to that. But to me, it needs to be quality gear, which is, what I think with the Nomad stuff. It's good stuff and it's at a good price. And that's why I'm excited about working with them. I honestly can't even tell you what their scent control stuff in it is. I don't think it's one of their main selling points. But I do think they probably have something in there because everybody does.
Well, I'm kind of moving back to where my current thoughts are. Let me just first, where I stand with the John Eberhart. I actually believe that a lot of his scent has to be contained for him to have the level of success that he does. However, I believe that there is just a small percentage of people that are going to go to the extremes that John Eberhart does, including myself, to enter in the woods and to hunt the way that he hunts. But there is just no denying that man's success. And I do also, I'm a gadget guy, man. I mean, you know this. I spend way too much money on hunting gear. Like, I try everything that hits the market and just find out what the next big thing is. And I like to, I like to blog about this. I like to do gear reviews. So I try all the scent control deodorants. I mean, I still use, I do actually use a natural deodorant now. It's not hunting based. My wife actually makes it, or I'll use like Tom's unscented deodorant. So I still do follow scent control with my pits, and I do wear I'll shower and shampoo with unscented soaps, so I still do that. I'll still actually use spray. I just don't know how much good it does, but I'll tell you what, it does some good in my own mind. And I think for a lot of us, that's the main thing. Like, what makes you confident when you walk in the woods? If you're not confident when you walk in the woods, you'll just start stumbling and bumbling around, and you're not being a good woodsman. I think the more confident you are as you enter the woods that you can get it done, I think the I don't know, you just literally become a better hunter with your confidence level.
Yeah, and I agree with the confidence level thing for sure. Like any little thing, that makes you feel better about when you're in sand, give you confidence to pay attention and feel good about the hunt. I agree with that 100%. I guess another thing that I would kind of leave open for me to feel differently about the scent control stuff too, is as far as leaving ground scent. Um, I think there might be some room there for um, for making a difference, I guess I'd say, because right now, so until this last season, was hunting a lot of public land, and a lot of times I'd be hunting those spots only one time. And this last season, it was kind of similar. I had a huge property where there weren't other people hunting, so um, a lot of times I was only hunting a spot one time, so I really wasn't super worried about leaving scent. And I was also very careful about leaving scent, period. Like there were areas of the property that I didn't even want to scout or anything like that until I was going to go hunt. Um, Now, if you have, say, like 100 acres, first of all, my advice to you, if you only have 100 acres, is find some public land or find some other places to hunt. Because I just don't think there's any way you can keep the pressure down enough to hunt that size property an entire season. But if that's what I had, I certainly wouldn't want to just hunt it once a year. And I do think that there could be some real benefits to trying to control your scent some more in those situations. So I guess I would want to kind of leave that caveat open that I think for hunting small pieces and hiding ground scent and stuff, I could definitely see a benefit there. Dan Infalt actually does the opposite, where he like sometimes I think wants to be as stinky as possible because he's trying to blow all the deer out of an area so he can eliminate that spot as one of the choices. Which is not, he'll hunt the same area more than once. He usually doesn't hunt the same tree unless he really feels like, it's a huge opportunity. He's always looking for the highest percentage opportunity. So sometimes maybe that highest percentage is hunting the same tree, but usually he might hunt the same area and move a little bit. And something I kind of skipped over there is, we had Bob Shepard on. Do you remember what episode that was that we had Bob on about, the best weather to hunt deer in?
Maybe around 17, something like that.
Was that after the scent control series?
It was after, yeah.
Okay. So Dr. Bob Shepard, I actually read his book somewhere in the middle there before I found out about Dan Infalt stuff. And something that he said in his book was he talked about deer knowing where people's stands were and, skirting around them. And that was eye-opening to me at the time to realize like that's where I learned about ground scent was from him and reading that book. Before next time you're talking, I'll go back and try to look that up so I can look up the name of the book. But
it's episode
you got
18. Yep. I looked it
What's
up.
the name of the book? Do you know?
Oh, the book. Well, the episode is number 18, and the book is Whitetails. Pause.
Yeah.
Whitetails, a research-based hunting model.
Okay. The thing is, he does that. You can't even buy the book anymore unless you can contact Dr. Shepard, and he told us he sold a ton of those books after that episode. So I'm not sure there's any left, but you should go ahead and contact him if you're interested because he said he was thinking about getting more printed. So if he gets enough people contact him, then he'll probably go ahead and do it. And he's somebody I'd really like to have back on. We've had so many good guests, but the thing is we've got a bunch of yes, it's just us tonight. We couldn't get somebody together, but really we've got 4 different people we're trying to line up right now. So it's not for a lack of ideas.
Yeah.
What's that, Adam?
Yeah, I mean, 4 guests that literally we had lined up to come on, and we did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just didn't work out. Yeah.
Didn't work out.
So, hey, I wanted to ask something else because here's something else that I like really struggle with idea wise, um, because of being so interested in the hunting beast and the way those guys are doing it and hunting particular buck beds. How do you hunt in relation to bedding? On a regular basis, like how much of a factor is that into you hunting a spot?
Oh man, it really varies, and it factors more into it now than it did 2 years ago. So, it depends on where I've had areas to hunt. What type of terrain was I hunting or am hunting? Where I'm hunting. So let's say 5 years ago, I had some really good ag that I hunted around. I hunted destination areas like how deer would be funneling through or traveling to that ag, and that's how I hunted it. And I would take bedding into consideration of where my wind was blowing, making sure my wind wasn't blowing into that bedding area, and making sure my access routes were all good. But now that's changed a lot. So, like I went and hunted Kentucky, and that's pretty much one of the main things we looked for. We looked for bedding and we looked for food. And then, it's a lot of hill country. Then we looked at what will the wind do if we're hunting X location. Will it blow, the way that we think that it will, and mark that on the map. So it's all about bedding now. It's really came full circle. And I know with you've made comments in the past that, there's so many areas for deer to bed. How much priority do you place in hunting bedding areas now where you hunt?
Yeah, so that's like it's something that I'm still trying to work my way through and understand better because, like I said, when I first started following Dan and the hunting beast, like I that's like I dove into like, okay, I need to find these individual buck beds and find where these single bucks are bedding because if I want to kill a mature deer, that's the way I'm going to do it. So every time I scouted, that's what I was looking for. I was looking for, you know, a specific buck bed. And if I went into an area and I couldn't find a depression in the ground and some hair in it, I thought, well, I'll check this off the list. This must not be a good hunting area. And I think since then, that's probably been, I'd say like 5 years that I've been following that. I've kind of come more to believe there isn't in the South where I hunt these thick areas where there are, there's not like a single tree out in a marsh. Now, I will say this: there are some coastal areas where you can check them out on a map. I don't care if you're in the South or in Wisconsin or Maryland. If there's like a small island out in the middle of an area where you can see trails in the marsh, you can see those trails in on aerials. There's no doubt the animals are moving back and forth in those areas, and I do think that they're more used bedding areas in those situations. But the areas that I'm hunting, I feel like the deer densities are a lot lower, and the bedding areas are a lot more. So they're not. You can't specify one specific spot so easy. So maybe instead of hunting a specific tree out in the middle, you might hunt a trail that's on the edge where they might be bedding out in that area, but they're going to be coming in this area. Or, the same might be, I don't have a lot of like coastal swamps that I'm hunting. So maybe these inland swamps where, okay, they're probably on a little dry spot out here, but I'm not trying to pick a dry spot. Um, it's more what you hear traditionally of trying to get in between food and bedding. So, the bedding's going to be this transition area, the food's over here. Um, to me, I guess lately I've been just more trying to find hot sign. And if you find where the deer are at in the area, then that's where you're going to be hunting. But I guess it's like you said, it depends on the situation. That 11-point buck I shot this year, I guess I was hunting, trying to relate to bedding, because I was trying to hunt downwind of a doe bedding area, thinking that bucks are going to be cruising, which I think is how that hunt worked out. So um, I do think bedding's pretty important. The catch for me is I have not been able to master it well enough to find specific beds that are well used beds from a big buck. If those exist, then I've got a long ways to go as far as learning. Um, but to me, I think in the areas I hunt, it's more about finding an area than it is about finding the bed. Is that enough for you? That was a long
Yeah.
overview.
No, that's I was going to ask you about your 11 point and your 8 point. Was that deer coming off bed, or how did that particular hunt play out? I mean, did bedding have any type of influence on where you sat that day? Was it all about the ag? Was it all about wind? Was it random? What was the situation around that particular deer?
The 8 point was first of all, I was in a box blind, so it was like no, I was in that spot because I was hunting with my kids. Um, but I think I talked about this in the episode where I talked about it. It definitely was not random. I had some trail cameras on this field that was an overgrown field. We put lime on it this year, but we did not plant it with anything. Just because of the way the season went and equipment and that kind of stuff, I wasn't. This was an old food plot that had overgrown from last year. I don't I don't even know really what was left in it. I think there's a lot of weeds and stuff, but we did put some lime on it because we were planning on planting it. But it wasn't mowed or anything. It was just tall grass. And I put a camera on the edge of it, and there was a scrape on the edge that I put the camera on. So, it wasn't over bait or food or anything like that. And I was getting some pictures of the deer that I ended up getting. Um, so that weekend, I kind of hogged the spot to myself, knowing I was going to be taking my kids to the spot. So the day before, I kind of was like, all right, you hunt here, and magically nobody was hunting that spot when I was done. Um, so
And then magically you didn't get permission to come back. I'll be doggone.
Yeah.
Wow.
my that family was not involved in that trip, so it wasn't like I was keeping the property owner out of the trip. But um, so I knew that I kind of had somewhat of a pattern, knew that there was a good chance, and I have a very good feeling where that deer was bedding, and I specifically, we were staying away from that area in coming in. So
did you know that deer existed?
yes, yeah, I had, yeah, that's the number one buck I was going after was that 8 point.
You absolutely are horrible about posting anything on social media.
Yeah.
We're all supposed to know the names of these deer, and I expect a full inventory next year.
Well,
Just
yeah,
kidding.
I mean, yeah, there's not going to be a whole lot of inventory on public land. It's going to be like, is that buck legal? He's on the hit list.
They're spiky.
Yeah, right. Well, those aren't legal in Florida anymore. So,
forky.
yeah, it's got to have, most of the areas are 3 on one side, actually. So, the first year that was implemented, there was kind of hard to find bucks that way. But I do think over time it's going to be getting easier because those spikes are not getting shot for the most part. Other than I hunt a very large piece of land that is hunted by dog hunters all gun season, and I'm not sure that I'm not lumping all dog hunters together. I think there are probably a lot of dog hunters that I'd love to bring some on the show to just hear about it and learn some more about it. But I do know that there's also a contingent of them that think that the laws are meant to be broken. I think a lot of times if it's brown is down, regardless of what the law says, and you just kind of stuff it in a dog box or something. And like I said, I'm not lumping all dog hunters in that, and I know that there's some that follow the laws to a T and are very respectful. But some bad apples kind of ruin the bunch in that case for me. And the deer density there is very low, and I don't think the regulations are being followed. So it's a tough place to hunt. But part of me is excited by that challenge. I really want to kill a nice buck off of that land just because of the challenge of it. And I don't care if somebody from another state or another area or whatever like sees that and thinks it's not very impressive. Like, to me, that is going to be like the biggest trophy possible, would be to kill a mature buck off a property like that. And people do it. I wouldn't be the only one to do it. And I think most of the people that do it, you'll never hear about it because they ain't talking to anybody about it.
And if they are, they're going to be on the Down South Hunting podcast.
Yeah. I've talked to some people that are regularly successful on public land, and you know what? They're not real interested in coming on as guests.
Now you're saying they're successful down there, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's not the case for all of them. Some people are happy to share what they've learned and that kind of stuff. I just think, some people are, don't want to mess up what they got. They're not in it for notoriety, and not that everybody that comes on. I think a lot of these people that come on do it more because they want to help other people, not because, obviously we don't have some huge following. Um, I'd say I'm impressed by the amount of listens we get, and I'm, so thankful for it.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
but we're certainly not making people famous. Um, so yeah, so that 8 point, I had a plan going in there, and it worked out great, and I was blessed to do it. I mean, there certainly was a ton of luck involved, but it wasn't random. And I would say the same thing for that 11 point. I actually had pictures of that deer, and I won't say I was going to that spot for that deer, but I knew that was like the best deer left that I wanted to get, and I would say I was very lucky that he's the one that showed up. Um, but I was in that spot for a reason. And I remember sitting up the night before just thinking, I had a few different spots in mind and just kind of going through all the scenarios like we do. Um, and, that's the one, I ended up coming up with, which is a huge help to my confidence, because anybody that knows me, especially my wife, will tell you all about it. It's not like I've had a ton of success as a deer hunter. So to me, it was very gratifying to hunt on this private land and have success so, I'd say, easily, because it kind of proved to me like what I'm doing makes sense. As opposed to when I'm hunting this public land, a lot of times you never get that confirmation. It's not because you're not in a very good area or doing the right things. It's just because, there's just not that many deer. It's all that much tougher. But I got a long ways to grow as a hunter. I believe there are people out there that are, know way more than I do, and are, those are the people I want to have on the podcast. Those are the ones that, you really got it figured out if you're hunting that heavily pressured area. And I got a little tangent to go on, Adam.
No way.
I feel like I'm doing like a monologue here. Um, so as much as I'm talking about public land and how I think it's cool and that kind of stuff, I think some public land hunters go way over the top talking to, yeah, I feel like there's like a superiority complex with some people talking, thinking that just because it's public land that they're, superior hunters, or, it's worth that much more. And I know there are some guys with leases out there, or that share property or hunt by permission, and they're dealing with the same stuff that people on public land are hunting on. There's
Yeah, they just pay to do it. It's really kind of strange, actually.
yeah.
Think about it.
I mean, some of these leases that, they may be one guy per 20 acres or per 50 acres, or,
Yeah.
And that, that's, you got to hunt whatever your best opportunity is.
Yep.
So I don't begrudge anybody that's got private land to hunt on and isn't spending all their time on public land. Well, why would you do that? Let's take Kyle, for instance. He's got his property in Mississippi that they put tons of time and effort into.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, you know what? It's different because he's not putting a ton of time and effort into scouting thousands and thousands of acres, but he's planting trees, he's doing this and that. And it's not like those deer are, just coming out and laying themselves out at noon for him on a food plot either. But it's just different types of challenges. A lot of times he might be able to hunt preset stands, which, if you're on public, maybe you don't get to do that. But he's spending a ton of time prepping those stands and stuff. So anyway, I just don't, I think we need to be careful as hunters not to have this whole public versus private mentality. It's different challenges, but it doesn't mean one guy's a better hunter. And I think it's crazy for people that hunt public to think that people that have good private land to hunt on ought to want to hunt public all the time, or, I will say this though. I think it'd be good for, even if you have a lot of private land, to try to hunt public once in a while, just for the experience. It's a total different experience. Everything's brand new. I think it's exciting. I know you've done that. What are your thoughts on that? Because I know you've been hunting a lot of private, and lately you've been getting on public more.
Well, man, I was going to say that you need to do it out of necessity, because I grew up really spoiled. I mean, I had hundreds of acres that I could hunt on private land. I had access to thousands of acres where I actually grew up of public land, and all I ever hunted was the private land side. I mean, I'd hunt public every once in a while, but it was nothing I put a lot of time into. And then even when I moved to where I live now, I all of a sudden had access to a really good small parcel of private land, but I pigeonholed myself to that, and that's all I thought that I should hunt. And then I opened, and then I lost that piece, and then I couldn't find other places to hunt. So now, out of necessity, I absolutely have to hunt public land, and I don't have a choice. So I think for the guys that are out there that actually hold a lot of private land that they have access to, man, you need to like expound and go out and hunt some public land to at least, if nothing else, to find more properties to hunt and learn, because those public land areas probably are not going to go away and you're always going to have access to them, hopefully. And so learn those areas and have backup spots, because you could find yourself like me and having to start from ground zero, which stinks. It absolutely stinks. But hey, man, I'm actually, like we've talked about in the podcast, I've found an opportunity to have a new challenge, and you change your expectations on yourself and just have fun with it. And I've had a blast doing it. But man, if I fell into 1,000-acre piece of private land, you better believe I'd be hunting the crap out of it next year.
Yeah, I agree. And if I won the lottery next year, you know, which was going to be tough since I don't ever don't ever play it.
A hypothetical lottery.
But if I fell into, a couple $1 million, I mean, I'd love to have 1,000 acres on my own. And you know what? I'd probably focus a ton of my time and effort on that property. But I think, and maybe even a couple years I might just hunt that exclusively. But I have a feeling I'd end up doing some public as well. I just think it's a totally different experience,
especially out west, doing some stuff like that. Take advantage of the public lands that are out there.
Yeah, which I haven't been able to do yet. I think I said this on an earlier episode. Actually, this might be an episode that we had some technical difficulties and it's not going to get out there. But I just feel like I haven't conquered my local area yet, that I feel like I need to spread out so much. And it's really tough with 4 young kids, and being away is real tough. The way it is now for me to go hunting, I got to drive 3 hours each way. So it's a full weekend trip. So if I'm going to hunt regularly, I can't be taking, a week off as well, or 2 weeks off every year. Like I've, understandably stretched my wife enough that, I just don't feel like it's in the cards yet. I really would like to get into some maybe 4 or 5 day trips, hunting some different areas in the South. And that's exciting to me enough in its own, versus going out west. Like I have no doubt in my mind, I would love hunting elk, or mule deer, or, I enjoy listening to podcasts about hunting and that kind of stuff out west, even though it's not even something I do. And I'm going to do it someday, but I just have to understand where I'm at in life right now. And that part of life is not, taking 2 weeks away from my family, in the fall. I got plenty of other family obligations to use my vacation on and that kind of stuff. And I got to keep my priorities in check, and my family's definitely over that. So I think you've kind of run into that some more, where you've actually experienced it. So unfortunately for you, you're missing it more.
Yeah. Well,
versus me having not done it, I guess I don't miss it as much. I just think it would be cool to do.
Well, I held your attitude for a long time. I mean, it was a 10-year span where I didn't go back out west, but I looked at it as, family is top priority, and they are. But I also looked at it as I'll eventually do this when the timing is right for the family and this and that, and I made excuses. And honestly, man, I'm not trying to convince you one way or the other, but like I woke up one day 10 years later and realized, well, it was after I lost my private property to hunt for deer hunting. I was like, I don't have a place to hunt. I enjoy going out west. Dadgummit, I'm going to make plans and I'm going to go out west. And that's what I did. But, I also cleared that with my wife and my family. And I tried my very best on the days off, my PTO days at work, that I would spend time with them and not every time I'm off be hunting. But man, I really believe that it's worth it, even if you have to give up a year of whitetails just one time, just to go out there, spend 10 days and come home and be like, I'm not deer hunting, but I'd encourage you to try to do it. I encourage listeners to try to do it. Stop waiting around, stop waiting for the time to be right, because all you're doing is you're wasting time where you could be out there learning. I mean, it's a whole different ball game out there, and it takes experience, as any deer hunter knows. I mean, other than maybe some turkey hunters like Rick Taylor that just can tag out every year. I'm not that way, but there are some people that are. I mean, they're born killers. But man, I'm going to need time to go and learn an area, learn a species, learn how to hunt them, learn how to call if that's what's going on. And I just think you need to do it while you're still young.
I guess that's just an example of how, not every hunter's the same. And there's no way you can convince me to give up an entire season of hunting to just go 1 week.
Because you hadn't went yet. You don't know what you're missing. You have no idea. I'm telling you, I love to deer hunt. I would love to kill a huge deer every year. But if I had the chance just to have a shot at a bull elk every year and not even kill it, just have a shot at it, I'll take that experience every single time.
I got to disagree. I just think we're like different mentality as far as that goes. Well, that's fine.
Yeah.
But I would say part of me never been would be because it's not as high of a priority.
I would say
because if I'd been willing to give up my entire hunting season, my wife would jump at the opportunity to have me only hunt for 1 week. But I'd be kicking myself the whole rest of the. I'm not saying I wouldn't love it.
Yeah.
And I have been out west. I actually spent a whole summer working at Yosemite National Park. And it's beautiful out there. And I'll tell you this, it was in college and I had not started hunting yet. I had no idea. And I wish I knew where I was. and not that I came back for school in August. So I wasn't missing any hunting seasons or anything. But it's funny. I lived in Georgia for a year, during hunting season. And I didn't hunt at the time. And I didn't know what I was, compared to where I live now, there's way more deer there, way more opportunity. I didn't know what I was missing. So sometimes I look and wish I could have some of those opportunities back. But man, giving up my entire hunting season for 1 week of hunting out west sounds ridiculous.
Well, I said I'd give up my deer season. I wouldn't give up deer and turkey.
and that's the thing is, so that's another difference between us. And I think it's probably obvious to most of the listeners that I think you like turkey season more than you deer season.
I think if we had a temperature gauge, yes.
Or if it's even like, okay, you can only hunt one of the 2 seasons this year. That seems so crazy.
If I could only have 1 month to hunt. Now that narrows it down because deer season's so much longer. And that's one of the reasons I like that, because you can be out in the woods more. So if it was 1 month to hunt, November or April, I'll take April every day of the week.
Yeah, that's. But I mean, every hunter's different. Like some people would rather hunt hogs than deer.
That's just foolish.
I'm
joking.
Them, man.
I'm joking.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think is whatever you get really into is, obviously what you're into, So
this goes back to that, there's different types of people that like to hunt different types of species and different ways of doing it. The coon hunters.
Which is cool. Yeah.
Like those dog hunters. I've actually been dog hunting for deer illegally when I was a kid and didn't know it was illegal at the time. So please don't prosecute me. But that was actually a lot of fun back then. But I also remember somebody killed like a pretty decent buck doing it. And I was like, doesn't really seem fair, Yeah. So I just kind of know that like it's not my thing. I don't care for it.
I think the thing about dog hunting is, and we really need to have somebody on the podcast so they can explain it better, because obviously it was just speculation with us. But to me, it's like the hunt is not when they go out there with the guns and try to shoot a deer. To them, they're putting the work into training the dogs and feeding the dogs and
it's all about the dogs,
breeding the dogs, and it's that's one of those same things where you might say, well, it's easy, all you do is you let the dog go and you stand and you shoot when it runs by. Well, you don't see all the other work that goes into it and all the money and the time and that kind of stuff.
Those guys put their guys and gals put their pride in their dogs. That's really where the hunt's at. You nailed it.
Yeah.
I mean, we did a lot of coon hunting growing up, and it was all about the dog.
Yeah. I wish we could have that guy Jerry Clower on. I think he's dead now. Pretty sure.
I have to Google that later too.
What's that?
I have to Google that one later as well.
You don't know? He's that comedian.
I mean to see if he's dead or not.
Oh, okay.
He's
Okay,
probably
yeah.
actually a podcast listener and really rolling laughing. That'd be funny.
That would be awesome. He needs to contact. I'm pretty sure he's dead.
Oh man.
That's another one another topic we talked about is having a coon hunting podcast. You need to get your family on the line. I think it'd be pretty cool, and I'm sure there'd be some good stories.
As soon as I go home, I'll line it up.
All right. Well, you're on the hook.
I am on the hook on that one.
Well, I think we're over an hour here. Did you have anything else you wanted to cover? I mean, we could go a whole nother hour, I'm sure.
Man, you mentioned something about us and doing the podcast and not being like the hunting experts and really wanting to be the ones interviewing. It just kind of went back to my why of like one of the reasons why I wanted to do this. And it was literally to learn more about hunting from experts, like how to become a better hunter, and having the opportunity to interview some of the best hunters across the Southeast and sometimes the nation is what we've had an opportunity to do. And man, I don't know. I sit back and I think about how cool it is that all the different people that we've talked to and everything that I've learned, even just like small little nuggets here and there that I felt have really will help me in the future. So I'm just thankful, man. I'm thankful we've been able to do this. Thankful to all the listeners out there. We have grown like crazy during turkey season, especially. We've been killing it. So I just want to say thank you to all the listeners out there, for everyone supporting us, for sharing it on social media, for telling your friends. I think that's the number one way we are getting new listeners, is from someone telling someone else, like with their mouth audibly, not just online. So keep telling your buddies about it, or your gal pals, whatever's going on. I want to be gender neutral here.
Man, you got me on something there.
Okay.
It doesn't take much to get an opinion out of me on something.
Nope. Hit it.
So I think it was after our first episode or maybe our second, my brother contacted me. We released like 3 at once at the beginning. And so, we're always looking for advice on how to get better. So if I do something that's annoying to y'all, let me know, because I'll try to do better. But my brother, he contacted me and he said, "Hey, you say guys all the time. And, there's some girl hunters out there and you got to be careful not to say guys." And here's the thing. I feel like guys is such a more effective. It's like quick and easy to say that, like, guys and gals all the time is like, here's the thing is, I know we have some female listeners and I'm excited about that. And, but I also know like the majority of people listening are guys. And I certainly do not want to alienate those ladies that are listening. I value every single person that's listening. And I mean, it's an honor that we get some girls that listen to the podcast too. But let me just say, if I say guys, I mean girls too. I mean hunters. Yeah. So I just hate how the climate is. Like, you got to include everybody. And, the Bible, they got, there's some translations of the Bible that change it to him or her, because it's, when the Bible says him, it means him or her most times. You can read the context. If I'm saying guys, read the context, and I might be talking about guys and gals.
I'm glad we could send you off on another tangent.
Yeah, I've been wanting to say that for a while. So that way I can feel good about saying guys, but also if you're a gal, just know that I'm thinking of you too.
Okay, on that note.
Yeah.
That was almost as good as the breeding dogs comment. Almost lost it. Jeez, I was laughing my head off. I had to put myself on mute. When you're talking about those guys just really love breeding dogs. I was loving it. And I digress. Yeah.
Yeah.
We just went from clean ratings to explicit.
The point of this I want to be able to listen to this with my kids in the car without having to explain anything here, Adam.
Yep. I just broke that rule, didn't I? Just broke it.
I don't know. I mean, there might be some questions asked. So for those who have kids, we apologize. Kids, you know what? Probably only like the 12 to 14-year-old range might even think twice about that. So I think we're still good there, Adam.
I think we can still label ourselves as clean.
Yeah.
That was a big deal for us, and it still is. Stay clean.
Yeah, and not just not say a curse word, but I really, it's frustrating to me when I want to listen to a hunting podcast or something and I can't because the kids are in the car. So, I can handle some words and that's fine. I'm an adult. I don't get my feelings hurt over that kind of stuff, but I really like being able to not worry about who's going to hear what I'm listening to. So that's important to me. It's something that could be listened to at work or with kids in the car, or, you don't have to worry about getting dirty looks if you're in public. It's hunting, so maybe you might get some dirty looks, but you don't need to worry about those people.
I just feel like you don't even appreciate my joke at this point.
Yeah, well, maybe not. It's getting late, man.
I'm so ready for this to be over. Let's kill it.
Hey, so check out Hunting Gear Deals while you're at it. That's my why. Why do I do the podcast? So that you can hear about hunting gear deals and go visit my website and spend a lot of money and put some money in my pocket. Support Nomad too, because they're helping us out. We got some giveaways coming up. It's going to be exciting. And with that, we're out down south.
Out down south.